Hello, everybody. It's Helen Butler from Inspired People Solutions, and welcome to another podcast. We are coming to you live from Noosa in Queensland, and we are joined by the gorgeous Ness Rawson in Heathcote, regional Victoria. It's a very warm welcome to you, Vanessa, as Melbourne goes into, unfortunately, lockdown number 2. You're safe and sound in Heathcote, just out of the metro area. So thank you very much for your time today, Vanessa. It's a pleasure to have you on again, and welcome.
Hey, Helen, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
It is an absolute pleasure. We've got so much to get through today. You've got holidays, you've got jobs, you've got new exciting news about book launches coming up. So it's going to be all about you today. So can you start us off with what's been happening for you from a work perspective up there, and how's you going in lockdown number 2?
Okay, let's start with the bad stuff first and get that out of the way. Lockdown number 2, we missed lockdown number 2 by 10 kilometres. Can you believe it?
That's great.
We're in the city of Greater Bendigo, and Mitchell Shire is, a bit of a hop, skip and jump down the road. So we've literally got a checkpoint located about 3 kilometres from our house, which is pretty confronting. But
who mans those checkpoints?
The police.
Okay.
Which is kind of funny because they know who we are. So when we go through, they're just like, "Oh, g'day Ness, g'day Trev, how you going?" And you still got to show your ID and talk about, where you're going and where you've been and so forth. But the Army the Defence Force have been there.
Oh.
That's super confronting, actually, to see members of the Defence Force, in a little town like ours. But they're just doing their job. Yeah. It's an important job. They're really friendly, and it hasn't been a problem.
No, I just think sometimes it's a thankless job, isn't it, having to just pull people over, and how they keep being polite. And if you get, it's really important to remember they are just doing their job and trying to protect everybody. So it's one of those things, isn't it?
It is. I think it's hard on both the driver and,
Yeah, definitely. So, that's the yucky news out of the way. Congratulations on being outside of that metro bubble and not being all pandemic and germy. That's a wonderful thing.
Yes. So it's stage 2 restrictions here in regional Victoria, and it has been for several weeks now. We took advantage of an opportunity to go back down to Malakuta, actually, and go for a 1-week holiday down there. So your listeners will probably remember Malakuta for the fires around New Year's Eve and the devastation that occurred in East Gippsland. And that was a really confronting experience for us. I love Malakuta. I've been going there ever since I was a teenager, and Trev loves it as well because there are just so many boating opportunities down there, and the wilderness and the beach is gorgeous. But once you get to Can River, which is about 50 kilometres from Malakuta, I think, maybe a bit more, it's black forest. It's just black woodland on both sides of the highway, pretty much. There's one pocket that missed the fire, but we just found it so confronting, kind of soul-destroying, really, to see it. But the regrowth is quick and it's happening, but I don't think the Croajingolong is going to be the same.
It's so heartbreaking. We kind of have forgotten about the bushfires, I think, in some respects, because we've had this pandemic. But Malakuta was the place that we saw those kids on the tinny, and and the Defence Force having to send boats in to get people out. It was horrific, those scenes that we saw. And this is now 7 months on from this. It's really interesting to get your perspective on what the town's been able to do and how things are coming or not coming back.
Look, I think trauma hits people hard around the 6-month mark, from what I've heard and what I understand. So you can kind of relate it to a death, I suppose. But, you're in that adrenaline-fueled stage when things are happening, and it's not until the aftermath that you realise exactly what's happened. So there were actually a lot of visitors, a lot of people from regional Victoria. Obviously, the borders are closed down there. Everyone's social distancing. The businesses that are open are really welcoming. They loved having us there. We had our proverbial empty esky. We spent money in some small businesses, which is fantastic. It was very confronting, though, to see, say, for example, the news agency is closed, although they are using that space as a creative arts workshop for youth to sort of work through their feelings of the bushfire and recovery.
Awesome.
The communities, I understand, have actually developed, I didn't speak to anyone about this, but there's an article on the ABC website and also a Landline episode, I believe, about how the town has developed a committee to pitch, and I will be corrected on this, by the way, but to pitch for state and federal funding and local funding for bushfire recovery. I really like how the community has come together. I think they've had to, because they're just so isolated, and it's not just Mallacoota, by the way, it's the whole of East Gippsland that does appear to be affected by drought and then bushfire and now COVID. And Mallacoota had flooding in the bottom lake, which affected boating tourism for people that could come, obviously. You just kind of wonder, like, with those continual whacks, like, how do people get up again? But they do. And Mallacoota will recover. It is recovering, but it's going to take a long time.
It sort of breaks my heart, actually, to think, all those things you talk about, drought, bushfires, COVID, and now a bit of flooding. Like, people in the bush seem to go sometimes, or in the regions, because they're not, they're not like the Karens of Toorak, where it makes the nightly news and keeps on going and becomes a meme. They just buckle down, work hard, and try and be made just great contributors and bring together a community. And it's such I suppose they've got such resilience compared to, well, certainly I take my hat off them. And it's great that things are coming back, but it's also very heartbreaking of what they've had to go through for, the last 8 months or so in particular. What's your sort of take? Like, when you were there, the people were lovely. What's your sort of takeaways from the East Gippsland area?
Number one, I'm just really heartened by people getting up and trying again.
Yeah.
Because what's the alternative if you don't?
Yeah, it's true.
And they feel so passionate about where they live, and why wouldn't they? Because it's just such an aesthetically beautiful place to be. And it's not just Mallacoota, but it's towns like Can River and Orbost, and even tinier villages like Nowanower that were badly hit, and even the provincial centre of Bairnsdale. I think there's real opportunity for these communities, in partnership with all tiers of government and business, to look at the real long-term opportunities that exist for the area. And this would probably move us a bit more into a bit of a development and tree change conversation. Having that long-term vision to develop the region, because I have noticed a lot more inquiries to me about my work and join the crew prior to COVID. A few people were interested in my writing, but it was mostly a regional audience. And now people are starting to get in touch from all over, which is really interesting, even internationally.
That's great.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Join the Crew, because it's something that's been, or for you, when I think about you, it's all I think about with you actually sometimes, is you have a really big heart for your community and your regions, and for bringing people together. And, even during COVID, I've seen you post on, doing remote craft days, and, just things that are just so thoughtful, but also community building and binding. So you tell us all about Join the Crew and what it's about, and what's your vision behind it, Vanessa?
Okay, the vision for Join the Crew has always been about bringing small towns and communities together to talk about creating better futures. And what that means is basically getting involved in community and making new friends, and developing a sense of meaning, and feeling like you're part of something bigger than yourself. And I believe that when people move into this space, that's when the challenges of the bush can start to be sort of reimagined from different angles. So things like loneliness and anxiety and depression and even generational poverty can be healed through, looking at small business entrepreneurship, for example, and just involvement in your local CWA or starting up your own crafty crafts group, which I'm wanting to do in September. So my vision for Join the Crew was and always has been to scale it beyond Heathcote. So after we held Join the Crew in Heathcote in November, obviously I had grand plans. COVID-19 came along, but that's been a wonderful gift because that's afforded me the luxury of time to continue developing, building relationships and thinking about Join the Crew and sort of organic and slow growth for the future. So the tree change side of things, people come to Join the Crew to find out about the town and the community, and they can actually see how they'd fit in. It's not like you're on a website or you're reading some glossy brochure. You can actually meet people in the town and you can go, yeah, I can imagine myself as part of the CFA. I can imagine myself learning how to use a chainsaw with the SES, for example. I can, get back to my roots, learn how to make the best sponge with the CWA, for example. But there's so much more than that. And there are so many groups that you can be a part of. After the Heathcote Join the Crew, we had inquiries from 3 other towns and regions, and I have needed this time to think about the model and how to scale it. And had COVID not happened, I don't think I would have gone down the right track. So the goal is just to, I call it grow with the flow and to grow gradually. So I'm working full-time in local government, and I want to continue working in local government in some capacity because as Join the Crew develops, because I love the variety of projects that you can work on and the real change that you can affect in local communities. Like, I'm so passionate about this.
Yeah, great. And also, local government is going to be the cornerstone for this as well. Local government has a real capacity to build communities' infrastructure programs that can impact on people making that tree or sea change, whatever they so choose. So I think it seems like a really good connection, I think, and it makes sense. With Join the Crew, like also COVID, you said COVID's been a blessing in disguise in some respects for you to think about how you want the model to work, which is awesome. I think COVID's given us all some thinking time in that space. And, having conversations with people now, particularly those that are in Melbourne in second lockdown, the conversation has come up about no backyard for the kids to play, and the kids are driving me nuts at, second round of homeschooling. What are we doing this all for when we're all working remotely? And there's been a lot more chatter around the boom of the suburbs, so the moving further out, but also the tree and sea change that we've all managed to work from home quite successfully now. It just seems like this is the new norm. So there is an expectation that more tree and sea changes will be happening in the regions, because still up in Melbourne you do quite well. You get more bang for your buck when you come out to the regions. I know from our perspective, like, we hit the jackpot when we moved and our dollar went a lot further. Absolutely. Anywhere like 27 acres versus 100 square metres, it's like apples with pears, but it's a lifestyle change for us now. So Join the Crew, would it be, I think, COVID has come at a time where not everybody, some people really love their jobs and want to get back into the office, and that's just brilliant. But for those people that are thinking about, is this all there is? This is a really great one-stop shop potentially for them to start chewing the fat in their minds and potentially with their partner about, well, what are we going to do? Is this the lifestyle we want? Do we want a tree change? Is there more to life than this? Is Join the Crew a spot where people can have a conversation or have a think tank dump with you about, what are we doing? Where do we move to? Oh, what's next for us? Like, what's your thoughts around what you're going to facilitate for people in that respect?
Yeah, look, that's definitely a big part of the vision. So we're going to pursue a not-for-profit model because we want to be able to partner with government and corporate,
Yep.
and also with small business in local communities. So I think it's really important to have partnerships in all of those areas in order to deliver. And being a not-for-profit organisation is so essential for community ownership, because Join the Crew will look slightly different in every town and community and region. And I would like to think of myself as the conductor of the orchestra, maybe. Do you know what I mean? It's about bringing people together for a much bigger purpose, and I love the ethos of a not-for-profit or social enterprise. So one side of the coin is very much about talking about tree change and how we can realistically develop regional Australia, because I am not going to shy away from the problems of the bush, and don't even like using the word problems, but you know, obviously things like drought and water and climate change and so forth. I'm definitely not going to shy away from that, but there is so much lifestyle opportunity for people that even want to come to somewhere like Heathcote. You know, you sell up in Melbourne for $1 million. Well, you could buy 2 beautiful houses with acreage in this region for that. Do you know what I mean? Like, and we're just 120 kilometres down the road. Like, you could buy a house up in Kyabram, which is in commuting distance to Shepparton, for example, for under 300,000. You can buy acreage in a beautiful little hamlet called Crop, which is 40 minutes from where we are, and I'm talking about 100 acres, and you're within commuting distance of Bendigo and Shepparton. And if you've got that dream of farming, you can link into people that can show you how to farm, so you're not alone. And live that lifestyle. I'm not saying it's perfect, but so that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin, which I know we can get traction on quite quickly, and I'm looking at this for 2021, is I call it the rebooting of small towns and communities. And we may need to look outside Victoria initially, or even look at sort of a hybrid model between face-to-face and online. But the real power of Join the Crew are the face-to-face relationships that are powered through technology. So we get the message out and the ideas out. We start building connection. But it's when people come together and showcase their community groups, their small businesses, and talk about their ideas for the future in, say, TED-style talks. That's when the magic happens. I've seen it happen here in Heathcote. I've seen the model work through the HR talent community that I developed and facilitated for 3 years in Melbourne. And, it's just really exciting. I think the potential of what's going to happen. I don't have a fixed view. I just call it following the yellow brick road, and all I have to do is have the vision, bring people on board, and walk the road.
You know what? If I have learned anything in my, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, long years, it's very much that sharing your ideas, bringing more minds together means more creativity, collaboration, and more minds together, I find, are better than one, because you just unlock so much potential and so much goodness and teamwork and creativity within people. And I love, that your 2021 rebooting of small towns and communities, we're going to need it. We might not be able to travel internationally. Apparently, caravan sales are going through the roof, and this is an opportunity for our regions to shine and to get some economic stabilisation in there with the cashing in on the tourism dollar. Also, people that have homeschooled, some people really enjoyed that, so want to keep their kids at home, which then frees up their opportunity to travel a little bit more. So I think from a tourism perspective, from an economic development perspective, Join the Crew can tap into so much in communities to set them up to not only attract a tourism thing, but also maybe attract people to come and live in their communities as well. And I think one of the biggest things, and it's certainly something that when Garth and I were talking about a move to wherever, just out of Melbourne, we were like, well, if we want to farm, we don't know anybody that farms. How would we farm? What do you do with the cow, the sheep? Hello, who knows? But the opportunity to tap into, there's programs now where farmers who've lived on the land for a long time, and they're children don't want to buy it off them, where you can work on that farm with that old farmer. You're a young family and he teaches you everything, and it's a mutually beneficial relationship from a commercial and also, I guess, a family doing the tree change perspective. So there's so many different ways that you can tap into informing yourself about what is going to be a good change for you if that's something that you're up for. With Join the Crew, what's your call out here, Ness? Are you looking for, how do people get in touch with you if they are thinking about a tree change, sea change, or if they want to tap into you to get information about how their community gets to be Join the Crew accredited, for want of a better word, about attracting, or if people want to come on board and promote their region with you and work with you to make their little area a part of Join the Crew, what is it that you're looking for, and how can we tap into you?
Look, a lot of ideas here, which I'm definitely open to, and it's part of the bigger vision. To keep things simple, I love to start a conversation, so a bit like what we're having. So our website has got a lot about sort of our vision about rebooting regional, and that's jointhecrew.com.au.
Right.
So that's a really good start point. Meet with us on Facebook. So we have something called Join the Crew TV, which happens every Wednesday night. I'm on a little break at the moment, but we're starting up again next week, where I interview people for 15 minutes about why they live in regional Victoria or Australia and what they're getting out of it. So that's on Facebook at jointhecrew.community.
Right.
My email is vanessa@jointhecrew.com.au.
And I will put all of those up on the notes as well, so everybody's got those contact details for you as well. And the start of a conversation is a great thing, because you just never know where that could lead you. I think this is an opportunity for people to really start thinking about where they want their lives to go. We've just had we're still in the middle of a deadly global pandemic. We've all had the ability to pick up our laptops and work from home and honestly spend more time with each other, which, might have worked for some people, may not have worked so well for some people. But I think we're at a point now where we're evaluating a lot of things about how we want to live our lives. And certainly, I'm very jealous of you living at Heathcote. I do remember visiting there, and it was a gorgeous town with some of the most beautiful wines Australia has to offer, but also gorgeous countryside. It's a really beautiful place, and regional Victoria has so many beautiful places as well. So let's leave it with a call out to, if you are thinking about a tree change or a sea change and you want to speak to someone who's spearheading, I guess, those things to think about, get in touch with Vanessa at Join the Crew. I'll put all that information and contact details up on the show notes so you can get in touch with her. But I think the message, stay safe and just be well wherever you are in Australia, in the world. Touch wood, Vanessa and I are germ free. I'm not face masking it yet because I'm still in sunny Queensland, and let's hope, goodness me, we continue to, do as well as we can to get over this pandemic. But it was great, Vanessa, to talk to you. Thank you again so much for your time, and I'm really excited about Join the Crew. Congratulations on doing all that you're doing to get, to make the move to regional Australia, wherever people might want to go, making it really a real thing for them. Well done.
Thanks. I just can't wait to start helping people at scale.
I love it. Good on you. Well, thanks for joining us. We will check in with you again in maybe a month or so to see how things are going and talk about a little bit more how that's evolving. But it's been, as always, a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Helen. Thanks to everyone listening.
Thanks everyone for joining us on the podcast today. It was a pleasure to have your company, and thank you to the gorgeous Ness Rawson from Join the Crew in regional Victoria. Check out her website at jointhecrew.com.au. You can also reach out to me, Helen Butler, at Inspired People Solutions. Our website is inspiredpeople.com.au. inspiredpeople.com.au. You can reach me at hello@inspiredpeople.com.au. Jump onto our Facebook page at Inspired People Solutions and our website. We've got some great tools and resources up there for you. For those in regional Victoria, any HR requirements you have or anything that you need to help you through the pandemic, whether you're juggling kids or you need some exercise outlets, or from a HR perspective, if you need some templates, everything's up there to help you out. So thanks again, people, for joining us. It was a pleasure to have your company. Take care, be safe, and bye for now.